Commander Vrex Tauron stared through the viewport of his flagship, the Infinite Glory, as the small, blue-green planet rotated below. His 4 eyes blinked independently, a nervous tic he'd developed after 3 centuries of military service. The primary set focused on the holographic report, while his secondary pair remained fixed on that insignificant mud ball the Galactic Council had so generously gifted to the strange bipeds. "Explain to me again," Vrex rumbled, his voice carrying the distinctive gravelly tone of the Draxian elite, "how these hairless apes managed to reverse engineer our propulsion systems in less than 2 solar cycles." Science Officer Pelna Zor shuffled nervously, her translucent membrane fluttering across her throat sacs. "Commander, the humans appear to possess an unusual capacity for creative problem-solving." "Creative problem-solving?" Vrex's upper lip curled back to reveal serrated teeth. "Is that what we're calling theft and espionage now? How delightfully diplomatic of you, Zor." "Not theft, sir. We gave them the decommissioned cruiser as part of the settlement package. The Treaty of Proxima explicitly permitted them to study it." Vrex slammed his armored fist onto the command console. The impact sent several junior officers scurrying for cover. "We gave them garbage. A 1,000-cycle-old cruiser with stripped weapons systems and a partially dismantled drive core." "Yes, Commander." Zor's voice remained steady despite her obvious discomfort. "And within 6 months, they had it operational. Within 12, they had improved its efficiency by 42%. They're calling their variation the Hawking Drive." Preposterous. Vrex turned to his strategic officer. "Malk, tell me our orbital surveillance has been compromised. Tell me this is misinformation." Strategic Officer Malk Dorn, a burly Centaurian with skin the color of burnished copper, shook his massive head. "The information is accurate, Commander. Not only have the humans restored and improved the cruiser, but they've also constructed 3 additional vessels using the same technology. Our long-range scans indicate they're preparing to launch a 4th within the week." "Impossible," Vrex hissed. "The settlement terms were clear. We grant them this insignificant world on the edge of contested space as a humanitarian gesture. They accept their place as a protected species and keep to themselves while we use their system as a convenient buffer zone between Draxian and Xylorian territories." "Perhaps," Zor suggested cautiously, "we underestimated them?" The look Vrex gave her could have melted titanium. "The Draxian Empire does not underestimate primitive species, Officer Zor. We analyze, categorize, and when necessary, subjugate with perfect precision. These humans were assessed as a Category 3 civilization at best. Pre-FTL, barely unified, prone to internal conflicts over ridiculous concepts like religion and economic systems. And yet," Malk interjected, "they now possess 4 near-military-grade starships with modified Draxian technology." Vrex's secondary eyes narrowed to slits. "What do you mean, near-military grade?" An uncomfortable silence fell over the command deck. Malk and Zor exchanged glances that spoke volumes. "Explain," Vrex demanded, his voice dangerously soft. Zor cleared her throat. "The modifications they've made, they're not just efficiency improvements. They've adapted the technology in ways our engineers hadn't considered. Haven't considered in 10,000 years of interstellar dominance." Vrex's voice dripped with sarcasm. "How refreshing. Do enlighten me about the brilliance of these evolved primates." Malk activated a holographic display. "They've reconfigured the gravitational field generators to create localized space-time distortions that..." "Basic language, Malk. Before I have you scrubbing waste reclamation units with your ceremonial headdress." Malk swallowed hard. "They've turned our propulsion system into a weapon, sir." For the first time in decades, Commander Vrex Tauron was speechless. His 4 eyes blinked in perfect synchronization. "A weapon," he finally repeated, "from our propulsion system." "Yes, Commander. By creating controlled gravitational singularities, they can essentially tear space itself. The destructive potential is theoretical, but our simulations suggest it could disable or destroy vessels up to Dreadnought class. Vrex slowly lowered himself into his command chair. And we gave them this technology. Technically, we gave them access to study an obsolete version of. Silence. Vrex roared. The command deck froze. Summon Admiral Quezon immediately. We need a full battle group. These humans have violated the spirit of our agreement, and the Draxian Empire will respond accordingly. Sir, Zor ventured carefully. Perhaps diplomatic channels would be more appropriate. The humans haven't actually threatened. Officer Zor, your concern for interspecies relations is noted. However, the development of weaponized technology derived from Draxian systems constitutes a Class 1 security breach. Protocol demands immediate military intervention. Commander Malk's voice had taken on an unusual urgency. There's more. Vrex turned his four-eyed glare toward the strategic officer. More. What could possibly be worse than a primitive species developing weapons capable of threatening Draxian dreadnoughts? They've sent us a message. The command deck fell silent again. Even the ambient hum of the ship's systems seemed to quiet in anticipation. A message, Vrex repeated flatly. And you're only mentioning this now because... Malk shifted uncomfortably. It arrived 3 minutes ago, sir. Direct transmission to our communication array. They bypassed our encryption protocols as if they didn't exist. Commander Vrex Tauron had lived through 3 major interstellar conflicts, 17 planetary subjugations, and 1 attempted coup within the Draxian High Command. None had made him feel the cold dread that now crept along his spine ridges. "Play it," he ordered. The holographic display flickered, and a human face appeared. Female by their dimorphic standards. Dark skin, short-cropped hair, and eyes that reflected a disturbing intelligence. "Greetings, Commander Vrex Tauron of the Draxian flagship Infinite Glory," the human began, her pronunciation of his name and ship designation flawless. "I am Admiral Jasmine Baptiste of the United Earth Defense Force. I trust this message finds you well." Vrex's mandibles twitched in shock. How did she know who commanded this vessel? That information was classified at the highest levels. "We've noticed your battle group has taken up position just beyond the orbit of our gas giant," the human continued, smiling pleasantly, as if discussing weather patterns. "Quite the impressive assembly of firepower. 7 destroyers, 3 cruisers, and your magnificent flagship. The Draxian Empire certainly knows how to make an entrance." Malk and Zor exchanged alarmed glances. The battle group had arrived less than an hour ago, using stealth protocols specifically designed to evade detection by primitive scanning systems. "While we appreciate the attention, I feel obligated to inform you that any hostile action against Earth or its colonies will be met with disproportionate force." The human's smile never wavered, but something in her eyes hardened. "As a demonstration of our seriousness, please direct your attention to the coordinates being transmitted with this message. Consider it a small preview of what awaits any aggressor who mistakes our gratitude for weakness." The message ended, replaced by a set of stellar coordinates located approximately half a light year from their current position. "Malk," Vrex said quietly, "what's at these coordinates?" The strategic officer worked his console rapidly. "Nothing significant, Commander. Empty space, some asteroid debris, no strategic value weight." His copper skin paled noticeably. "Commander, these are the exact coordinates where our advanced scout vessel was positioned." The vigilant observer. "That's impossible." Captain Drez was under strict orders to maintain absolute stealth. The humans couldn't possibly. "Incoming transmission from the scout vessel's emergency beacon, sir," called out the communications officer. On screen, Vrex ordered, a growing sense of dread building in his chest cavity. The display showed only static at first, then resolved into the haggard face of Captain Drez. Behind him, emergency lighting cast an ominous red glow over a bridge clearly damaged by some catastrophic event. "Commander," Drez's voice was strained, "we've been compromised. Some kind of gravitational weapon. Or through our shields like they weren't there. Drive core is offline. Life support failing." He coughed violently, green blood spattering his uniform. "They knew exactly where we were, sir. Said to tell you this was a courtesy tap on the shoulder. Said next time they'd vaporize the target." The transmission cut out. The command deck remained frozen in stunned silence until Vrex finally spoke. "How many crew on the Vigilant Observer?" 217, sir," Malk replied quietly. "And their status?" "Life signs detected but weak. The vessel's structure is largely intact, but primary systems are offline." Vrex stared at the empty display, his mind racing through military options, strategic calculations, and probable outcomes. None were favorable. "Sir," Zur ventured, "what are your orders?" Before Vrex could respond, the holographic display activated again. Admiral Baptiste's face reappeared. "Oh, and Commander Tauron? I nearly forgot to mention we've taken the liberty of dispatching a rescue vessel to assist the crew of the Vigilant Observer. We may be new to the galactic community, but we understand the significance of life, regardless of species. They should arrive within the hour." She leaned closer to the camera, her expression still perfectly pleasant. "After all, we're not monsters. We're just very, very quick learners." The transmission ended. Vrex stood slowly, his 4 eyes fixed on the blue-green planet rotating below them. "Zur, contact the Galactic Council. Request immediate diplomatic intervention." The science officer's membrane fluttered in shock. "Sir? Not military reinforcements?" "No." Vrex's voice carried a new note, something his officers had never heard before. It took them a moment to recognize it as respect tinged with fear. "We gave these humans a planet as an afterthought, the political convenience. And in 2 solar cycles, they've developed weapons that can neutralize our most advanced stealth vessel without destroying it." He turned to face his command staff, all 4 eyes wide with realization. They could have destroyed the Vigilant Observer, but they chose precision instead. They're sending rescue ships instead of finishing the job. These aren't the actions of savages with stolen technology. These are the calculated moves of a species we have grievously underestimated. Malk frowned. "You think this is a bluff? They can't possibly stand against the full might of the Draxian Empire." "Perhaps not today," Vrex conceded, "but I've reviewed their historical records. Do you know what they did before achieving global unification? They spent millennia perfecting the art of warfare against themselves. Their history is written in the blood of billions of their own kind." He gestured toward the view screen, where Earth continued its serene rotation. "We gave them cast-off technology as a political gesture, and they weaponized it within months. Imagine what they'll do with the technology on our battle group if they capture it intact. I won't be the commander who hands them the keys to the Draxian fleet." "So we retreat?" Zur asked incredulously. Vrex's upper lip curled in a grimace. "We strategically reassess. And I suspect once the Council hears of this development, they'll have some very pointed questions about who thought it was a good idea to settle these hairless apes on a resource-rich world with access to Draxian technology." As the command staff dispersed to carry out his orders, Commander Vrex Tauron remained at the viewport, watching the deceptively peaceful planet below. His primary eyes narrowed while his secondary pair widened the Draxian expression of deep contemplation. "They gave us a planet," he murmured, recalling the human admiral's final words. "And we just might have given them the stars." 3 standard months after the Vigilant Observer incident, Commander Vrex Tauron stood before the Galactic Council Security Committee, his posture rigid with military discipline, despite the humiliation burning through his 4-chambered heart. So let me understand this correctly, Commander, Counselor Thax Baron drawled, her gelatinous form pulsing with barely concealed amusement. You believe these humans pose an existential threat to Draxian security based on their modification of a single decommissioned cruiser? Vrex's primary eyes narrowed dangerously. With all due respect, Counselor, you weren't there. They disabled one of our most advanced scout vessels without destroying it, demonstrated knowledge of our classified command structure, and bypassed encryption protocols that have withstood Xylorian cyber warfare for centuries. And yet, interjected Counselor Gorvan Parr, the ancient Tellurian's voice creaking like old wood, they've made no aggressive moves since. In fact, they've formally requested expanded diplomatic relations with the Council. A deception, Vrex insisted. They're buying time, gathering intelligence. They returned your scout vessel with the crew intact, Counselor Baron interrupted, gelatinous appendages gesturing dismissively. They even repaired the life support systems before your own rescue vessels arrived. These are hardly the actions of a hostile species. Commander Vrex struggled to maintain his composure. How could these politicians be so blind? Counselors, I've spent my career studying warfare. The humans' actions display a sophisticated understanding of psychological domination. They didn't destroy the vigilant observer because they wanted us to know they could have. They're establishing dominance through measured restraint. The 7 counselors exchanged glances that Vrex had seen too many times before the patronizing look of bureaucrats who believed military officers saw threats in shadows. Your concern is noted, Commander, Counselor Parr said finally. However, the Council has voted to accept the human diplomatic delegation. They arrive tomorrow. You are welcome to observe the proceedings, but you will maintain appropriate diplomatic protocols. Is that clear? Vrex's mandibles clicked once in acknowledgement, the Draxian equivalent of grinding teeth. Perfectly clear, Counselor. As he exited the chamber, Vrex's communicator chimed with an encrypted message from Strategic Officer Malk Dorn. Urgent update, Commander. The human vessel has entered the Galactic Core system. It's not what we expected. Vrex quickened his pace toward the secure communication hub. Explain. Better if you see for yourself, sir. 15 minutes later, Vrex stood before a holographic display showing the approaching human diplomatic vessel. His secondary eyes widened in shock while his primary pair narrowed to angry slits. That's impossible, he hissed. The vessel approaching the Galactic Core was unmistakably Draxian in design, but unlike any ship currently in service. Its lines were sleeker, its propulsion system more elegant, and its defensive configuration more advanced than even the newest prototypes being developed in the Empire's most secret shipyards. They've not only mastered our technology, Science Officer Zor said quietly from her position beside Malk, they've improved upon it. Theoretical designs our engineers claimed wouldn't work for another century. How? Vrex slammed his armored fist against the display console, cracking its surface. It's been 3 months since we discovered their modifications to that obsolete cruiser. No species develops this quickly. Actually, Commander, came a familiar voice from behind him. We've been quite slow by our standards. Budget constraints, you understand. Vrex spun around to find himself face to face with Admiral Jasmine Baptiste. The human stood barely to his chest height, but somehow managed to project a commanding presence that filled the room. Her dark uniform was simple but elegant, adorned only with small silver insignia at the collar. Behind her stood 4 other humans of varying appearances, all watching him with those unnervingly intelligent eyes. How did you get in here? Vrex demanded, instinctively reaching for the ceremonial blade at his hip before remembering he had surrendered it before entering council space. Admiral Baptiste smiled pleasantly. Your security protocols could use updating, Commander. Nothing serious, just a few recursive algorithms that create what we call blind spots in your surveillance systems. We've submitted a detailed report to your cybersecurity division. Consider it a professional courtesy." Vrex felt his secondary heart skip a beat. "You hacked our security systems and you're admitting it? To my face?" "Not hacking, Commander. More like gentle testing. We wanted to ensure our diplomatic team could move freely if necessary." She extended a hand, a human greeting gesture Vrex recognized but refused to reciprocate. "I believe we've already been introduced, albeit virtually." "What do you want?" Vrex growled, acutely aware that security forces would take at least 3 minutes to reach this section of the facility if they even detected the breach. Admiral Baptiste lowered her hand, apparently unbothered by the rejection. "The same thing we've wanted since you gave us our little corner of the galaxy. To exist peacefully, to develop our potential, and to be treated with appropriate respect." "Respect is earned," Vrex countered. "Precisely." Her smile never wavered. "Which is why we disabled rather than destroyed your scout vessel. Why we're here for diplomatic talks rather than displaying our new fleet in orbit. And why I've come to speak with you personally before tomorrow's official proceedings." Vrex's 4 eyes blinked in confusion. "With me? Why?" "Because you understand what your politicians don't." Admiral Baptiste moved to the holographic display, studying the image of the human diplomatic vessel. "You recognize the threat we potentially represent. You see what we could become if pushed toward military development rather than peaceful coexistence." For the first time, Vrex noticed something in the human's eyes, a weariness that belied her confident demeanor. "We don't want war, Commander Tauron. My species has had enough of that to last several lifetimes. But we will not be subjugated, exploited, or treated as lesser beings. Not again. Not by anyone." A moment of silence stretched between them, heavy with unspoken implications. "That vessel," Vrex finally said, gesturing to the hologram, "was designed to send a message." Admiral Baptiste nodded. "Humans communicate in many ways, Commander. Sometimes words aren't enough, especially when dealing with cultures that respect power above all else." Before Vrex could respond, his communicator chimed urgently. "Commander, security breach in Diplomatic Sector 3. Unknown intruders," the transmission cut off abruptly. Admiral Baptiste checked a small device on her wrist. "Ah, right on schedule." "Don't worry, Commander. Your security team is merely experiencing a temporary neural disruption. Non-lethal, of course." "This is an act of war," Vrex snarled, secondary mandibles extending in the Draxian threat display. "This is a demonstration," the human corrected calmly. "In approximately 30 seconds, every weapons system in this facility will cycle through a complete shutdown and restart sequence. Life support will remain untouched, as will communication systems, except for those connecting to military channels." True to her word, the lights flickered momentarily. The holographic display winked out, then re-established itself. Throughout the facility, Vrex could hear the distinctive whine of defense systems powering down and reinitiating. "How?" he demanded, genuinely bewildered. "This facility has 17 independent security layers. 16, actually. The quantum encryption node on level 7 has been offline for maintenance for the past 3 days." She smiled again. "We brought you a replacement. Much more efficient. Your engineers will find the specifications most interesting." Vrex stared at the human, his tactical mind racing through scenarios, each more disturbing than the last. "You could have taken control of the entire council facility," he realized aloud. "You could have made demands, taken hostages. Launched your own weapons against your ships in orbit?" "Yes," Admiral Baptiste nodded. "We could have. But again, Commander, that's not why we're here." She gestured to her companions, who had remained silent throughout the exchange. "Allow me to introduce Professor Amir Khan, our leading xenobiologist, Dr. Lucia Ortega, expert in interspecies diplomacy, Captain Benjamin Turner, military liaison, and Tam Nguyen, technological adaptation specialist. Each human nodded as they were introduced. Vrex noted that none appeared armed, though after this demonstration, he understood that conventional weapons might be the least of his concerns. Tomorrow, we will present the Council with a comprehensive proposal for mutual defense, technological exchange, and economic cooperation. The terms are generous, more generous than your empire would offer in our position. And if the Council refuses? Vrex asked, already knowing the answer. Admiral Baptiste's expression remained pleasant, but her eyes hardened. We've prepared several alternative proposals, each corresponding to different levels of cooperation. The least favorable still maintains peace, Commander, but with significantly more restrictive terms regarding Draxian military presence near human space. She stepped closer, lowering her voice. Your people gave us a planet as a political convenience. We were grateful for the sanctuary, truly. But in doing so, you also gave us access to technology we've been theorizing about for generations, but lacked the resources to develop. We gave you garbage, Vrex echoed his words from months ago. You gave us a starting point, the human corrected. And humans are exceptionally good at turning starting points into revolutions. The facility's alert system suddenly blared to life. Security forces would be converging on their position within moments. I believe that's our cue to return to our vessel, Admiral Baptiste said. We've arranged guest quarters aboard for the Draxian delegation, including a suite specifically adapted to your physiological needs, Commander. We hope you'll join us for dinner before tomorrow's proceedings. Vrex's mandibles clicked in disbelief. You expect me to voluntarily board your vessel after this display? Of course not. The human smiled more broadly now. We expect you to report this encounter to your superiors, analyze every second of our interaction, and then make the strategic decision that boarding our vessel provides the best opportunity to gather intelligence on our capabilities. For the second time in his military career, Commander Vrex Tauron found himself speechless before these humans. They had predicted his reaction with disturbing accuracy. Until tomorrow, Commander, Admiral Baptiste said, offering the formal Draxian salute with perfect precision. Before Vrex could respond, the 5 humans simply vanished. No transport beam, no visible technology, they were simply gone, leaving behind only a small device on the floor that emitted a soft, pulsing light. Security forces burst into the room moments later, weapons drawn. Commander, are you injured? Our systems detected unauthorized life forms. Vrex raised a hand to silence them, his 4 eyes fixed on the small device. Secure that object. Level 5 containment protocols. Yes, Commander. What happened here? Vrex turned to the security officer, all 4 eyes blinking in perfect synchronization, a rare expression of complete Draxian focus. In contact the High Command immediately. Priority Alpha. Tell them he paused, mandibles clicking thoughtfully. Tell them we need to reconsider our position on humanity's status in the galactic community. And prepare my shuttle. I have a dinner engagement to attend. 6 standard months later, Ambassador Vrex Tauron stood on the observation deck of the newly commissioned diplomatic vessel Concordia, with a revolutionary design combining Draxian structural engineering with human propulsion innovations. Below them, Earth rotated serenely, its blue-green surface now host to 3 major Draxian diplomatic enclaves. Still finding it difficult to adjust to your new title, Ambassador? Admiral Baptiste asked as she joined him at the viewport. The transition has been educational, Vrex admitted. Military command follows clear protocols. Diplomacy is more nuanced. Yet you've adapted remarkably well. The trade agreement you negotiated benefits both our peoples substantially. Vrex's primary eyes remained fixed on the planet below while his secondary pair studied the human Admiral. We had limited options. Your demonstration in the Council facility made that abundantly clear. Admiral Baptiste laughed softly. Are you still upset about that? I thought we'd moved past it. I am not upset, Admiral. I am respectful of what it represented. His mandibles clicked once. My species has dominated galactic politics for millennia. We thought ourselves untouchable. You showed us otherwise without firing a single shot. Not entirely without precedent in your own history, she pointed out. The Xylorian concession was achieved through similar displays of potential force, was it not? Vrex's secondary eyes widened slightly. You've studied our military history. Know thy neighbor, Commander, forgive me, Ambassador. An old human saying. We have a similar expression, Vrex acknowledged, though ours traditionally ends with before conquering their worlds. They shared a moment of silence that might, under different circumstances, have been called companionable. The Council's decision to reclassify humanity as a Category 1 civilization was unanimous, Vrex noted, unprecedented for a species with less than a decade of interstellar presence. Having a Draxian battlecruiser gifted to us certainly helped expedite the process. Admiral Baptiste smiled. Your High Command's gesture of diplomatic goodwill was most generous. A gesture made with weapons systems fully operational, unlike the decommissioned cruiser we originally provided, Vrex said pointedly. The High Command felt it prudent to ensure you had no need to improve upon our designs independently. Transparent, but effective diplomacy. She turned to face him fully, and the joint fleet exercises beginning next month will demonstrate our commitment to mutual defense rather than competition. Vrex's 4 eyes blinked in sequence, a Draxian expression of ironic amusement. 12 Draxian warships integrated with human crews and modified with your gravitational weapons systems. If you had told me 1 solar cycle ago that I would not only accept such an arrangement but advocate for it before the High Command, I would have had you committed to a neural recalibration facility. Life is full of surprises, Ambassador. Admiral Baptiste's expression sobered slightly. Though I hope you understand now why we acted as we did. Your empire was preparing a subjugation fleet. We simply demonstrated that such action would be inadvisable. And in doing so, secured not only recognition of your sovereignty but integrated access to the largest military fleet in the galaxy. Vrex's mandibles clicked in what humans had learned to recognize as a Draxian chuckle. As your Shakespeare wrote, some are born great, some achieve greatness, and some have greatness thrust upon them. Admiral Baptiste raised an eyebrow. You've been studying human literature as well? I'm impressed. Know thy neighbor, Vrex replied, using her own words. Especially when that neighbor has diplomatically outmaneuvered an empire 5,000 years old in less than a standard year. A junior officer approached, offering formal salutes to both commanders. Ambassador Tauron, Admiral Baptiste, the Galactic Council representatives have arrived. The ceremony awaits your presence. As they turned to leave, Vrex paused. One question has bothered me since our first encounter, Admiral. You could have simply destroyed the vigilant observer. Demonstrated your military superiority beyond question. Why the restraint? Admiral Baptiste regarded him thoughtfully. Would you have respected us more if we had? No, Vrex admitted after a moment's consideration. I would have feared you more, but respect requires more than power. It requires wisdom in its application. Precisely, she smiled. And that, Ambassador Tauron, is why we now share a fleet instead of continuing an arms race neither of us wanted. You gave us a planet when we needed sanctuary. We're giving you technological innovations your scientists claimed were centuries away. Both sides benefit from cooperation far more than from conflict. As they walked toward the ceremonial hall, where representatives from 27 species awaited the formal announcement of the Human-Draxian Accord, Vrex found himself experiencing an unfamiliar emotion toward these strange, adaptable beings who had so thoroughly upended the Galactic Order. It wasn't fear or resentment or even grudging acceptance. It was, he realized with some surprise, genuine admiration. They gave us a planet, he murmured to himself, mandibles clicking in amusement at the elegant simplicity of the human strategy. And now we truly do share a fleet. Admiral Baptiste glanced at him curiously. Did you say something, Ambassador? Just reflecting on interspecies diplomacy, Admiral. His 4 eyes blinked in sequence, the closest Draxian expression to a human wink. And thinking that the next 1,000 years of galactic politics will be considerably more interesting with humanity involved. We certainly hope so, she replied with that enigmatic human smile. After all, we're just getting started.